Okay, guys, I really, really did not want to talk about this. This is something I was completely avoiding, but it seems that the story is not going away. And considering that it's not the busiest day in politics today, I figured we'll talk about it. So, have you heard that there's some conservative content creators who wants to sue the PPC for the comment that they made about them, accusing them of making it easy to identify who targets their kids? My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. Man,
I still don't know what we're
it's
talking about.
oh, okay. So
I'm
I'll
still
put.
not
I
sure.
know, I know, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to explain it to you. But the whole reason I want to talk about this is because I want our commenters to participate. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had so many guests that we haven't interacted
Yeah,
with our audience
that's a
as
good
much.
point.
So
Yep.
today, because there's not that much going on in the news, I thought that we would give the first 30 minutes to an open discussion. And just so you guys know, I finally was able to get somebody that I know you guys wanted to have on the show. I've been trying to get him for a long time. I don't know anybody personally that was able to get him on their show. But at 7:30 p.m., we are joined by lawyer, legal commentator, and gun enthusiast Ian Runkle to speak about the liberal gun grab. I'm very happy about this because I've been wanting him on the show
Ian
for a
Runkle,
long
is
time.
he a
So
big? Is he a big? He's a
he
big
is
name in
the
the gun
he,
gun
he is
movement.
the lawyer when it comes to gun rights. When it comes to he's a very known lawyer. He probably has 500,000-600,000 followers that follow what he has to say. So the guy is extremely followed, but he's very busy and
Okay.
he's been very hard to get on the show. But to go back to our main topic of the day, he's I know you don't have a lot of context. I'm going to bring it to you right now. So
Yeah, yeah.
there was
Get up to speed
obviously
here.
there was a convention last week, the national convention for the PPC, and you know that there's a bunch of content creators that went to Alberta in order to meet with their fans to have an event, and they were there to schmooze with the people, with the commoners, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And the pleb, you probably heard of the pleb. A lot of people don't like the guy.
Yes.
I understand why. But here's the post in question. So the pleb posted that picture of the conservative shills of Canada. I mean the conservative content creators in Canada. And his post was simple. This conservative convention has been legendary and all the big names in Canada. The PPC
Was he was
reposted it but listen to
was he
this. The
being
PPC
sarcastic
reposted
or?
it. No, 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 no. Oh, no, no, bro. I followed them all because I'm always interested in what they have
Oh
to say.
shit! Yeah, I
And
did see
then
this.
yes,
I did see this.
and at the top,
Oh,
the PPC reposted it and said, "Thanks for making it easy to identify who targets our kids." And obviously, they were talking against or about the fact that the conservative motion that was attempted to be passed during the national convention, where it would allow for conversations between parents, psychologists with kids that are trans and need more information. And by the way, we are joined by Mia Hughes tomorrow to speak exactly
tomorrow.
about
Yep,
that. So we'll be able to do a deep dive into what happened
that'll
when
be
she
great.
thinks of it, because she is one of the most recognized
Oh
worldwide
yeah,
voices
yes,
when it
yes,
comes
yes.
to the trans agenda. So I'm extremely happy. Man, we've been bringing some
That's
really,
no,
really
like
cool people
that's
on
my
the show.
wheelhouse,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's my wheelhouse.
Oh
Mia.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
no, I'm quite familiar with her.
so the point is that that post was about the fact that that motion didn't pass. So basically, they're kind of continuing with the Soji agenda,
Yeah,
and the PPC called them out for it.
sure.
Because if you don't know, the conservative did vote for Bill C4 back in the day to kind of allow that transition crap that we're seeing in Canada. They weren't against that bill. And that's something that the PPC has been targeting the conservatives a lot with. And I understand they deserve to be called out for voting for that crap. But yeah, so the PPC basically said, thank you for letting us know who is targeting our kids. And obviously, that's what they were referring to. Now,
Sure, sure.
they
So,
started, they saw,
I
they saw
mean,
the post. No, but hold on. Let's play a video for you guys because obviously the
yeah,
pleb reacted. They all reacted. They all started at the same time. They all started talking about this. They were all sharing it on their social media. And what I'm talking about is the video right now that I'm going to play from. And I apologize because most people on this show do not like this guy. I cannot stand the way he speaks. It really hurts my ears because he's so boring. Like literally, I'd rather watch paint dry than listen to this guy. But Mario Zelaya, saw the post. Obviously, the pleb probably called him. They talked about it. He made this video that I'm
yeah.
about to show. Everybody reshared it. So I apologize in advance, but it's for context. So here's the video of Mario Zelaya saying, I think it's time I send a clear message to the
Bro,
PPC. It's no surprise that they cannot win a seat. Imagine a political party engaging in libel, acting in contrary to their code of conduct, and expecting to gain support from it. Should I sue the PPC into oblivion?
why does it look like
So,
he's at a slumber party for a 15-year-old? Looks like it's at like a teenager slumber party. They just finished their pillow fights. Now he's gonna make a video.
well, that might be a question that we need to talk about afterwards, but right now, let's listen to what he has to say.
Give me a second because this is really, really good. You guys
He actually
know the
sounds like one
People's
too.
Party
Oh
of
shit, sorry.
Canada, right? Also known as the PPC. I honestly believe that they completely lost their minds. Jing Lei posted something that Pierre Poilievre won his leadership review with 87.4% of the vote. The PPC decided to attack him, and he said this isn't communist China. Sucking up to the party doesn't buy you protection, privilege, or immunity in Canada. And hang on because it gets better.
Why is he
all posted
whispering?
this
Does he
picture
not want to wake
together,
up his parents?
and
I
as
don't
you can see,
understand.
they said thanks for making it
He,
easy
he
to
always
identify
talks like
who
that.
targets are
Okay,
That's why I'm telling you.
when you use
But hold
words
on
and you say
now.
them and you make false accusations
Hold
like
on. Now
this in
you
a
kind of
public way,
covered
it's called
the whole point here, but I'll just stop it just to say that's why I can't stand him. Like he literally has no enthusiasm at all. He talks like that all the time, all the time.
bro's going to
So
sleep.
yeah, well, I apologize. It's 2 minutes long, 2.5 minutes
Oh,
long. But
no, no. I mean,
here's
I'm
here's the
sure
part that we're just continue drinking your energy drink there.
we all posted this picture together, and as you can see, they said thanks for making it easy to identify who targets our kids. When you use words and you say them and you make false accusations like this in a public way, it's called defamation. When you write them down, it's called libel. And hang on, because it gets much better. This is the PPC's financial statements as of 2024. And as you can see, in 2024, they had a deficiency in revenues over expenses of several $100,000. That means they're burning more money than they have because they are losing support. They have roughly $2 million, $500,000 in cash, and the rest, $1.4 million, in term deposits. And they have about $100,000 in receivable. And as you can see, it was signed by Max. My question is, should I sue them for every dime that they have in their bank account? And as you can see,
Well, that's a
it
bit
says
steep.
that Max has respect for Canada's cultural heritage, as well as governance that ensures every citizen is treated fairly. And it gets better. They have a code of conduct. And it serves, in their own words, as guiding principles for participants and are reflected in the expectations outlined in the code. And as you can see, participants have the responsibility to maintain professionalism, conduct themselves with professionalism at all times, both online and offline.
How did this guy get
demonstrating courtesy,
such a big following?
respect, and mindfulness in their words and actions. Let me highlight that section for you.
Okay, man, I can't even do it personally. He is so
And I mean,
boring. But the point
yeah,
is that
yeah.
I saw that post before everybody reacted to it, and I was like,
Well,
okay,
yeah, because
but
I mean,
but I get what they're
Here, go ahead.
saying.
Go ahead.
I fully understand what they're saying, but at the same time, he could simply, that's an easy case to defend. Like, he's not going to be able to sue
Yeah.
them. It would be, he could literally say, target our kids with your content creation. That doesn't mean, he didn't say anywhere, he didn't accuse them of pedophiles. He didn't accuse them to support that trans agenda. All he said is, at least we know who's targeting our children.
So,
Technically, I'm sure children listen to their content, so it's easy to defend. But
yeah,
it's
I mean,
so
and
ridiculous. So ridiculous.
The argument that you had brought up earlier, where they said, oh well, we were actually talking about their policy or about voting. I mean, the thing is that's close enough that will allow them to win any defamation case. That's all I have to say. Look, we were talking about that, and it's close enough that it's plausible, it makes sense. But in reality, we all know that they weren't. Like, we all know what they were doing. They covered their ass legally, but we know what the PPC was doing. It's funny because I don't have a dog in this fight, right? Like, I'm just watching it from afar, kind of. I'm just kind of enjoying the fight. Like, fight, get him. I don't really care who wins, but I think I understand why that group was upset, because it was kind of a classless comment. But if the PPC is trying to sort of provoke a reaction, then all these guys just fell right into the trap. They look ridiculous. Talking about suing these guys like for defamation, because it's one of those things. Look, yeah, you'll never be able to prove it in court. There's enough plausible deniability there. They can say, oh, it was about the policy and blah blah blah. We all know what it was. But there's nothing that Zelaya can do.
I thought it was funny when I saw the post, you go, and then I started laughing because I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why you did it, because
I see what they're saying. Of course.
Yeah. But they covered their ass.
Nobody,
there's no way you could sue them for defamation.
No. Plus, nobody would have batted an eye if they didn't make such a big deal about it, because most of the people, right. I'd have to go one by one, but most of the people that are on that picture, they talked about it, they commented on it, they posted a picture about it, they did something about it. So you're just feeding.
I'm pretty sure
you're just feeding the PPC.
From Billboard Chris, so it's getting around.
Oh yeah. Billboard Chris actually reposted it, but it got deleted because now the PPC. That's why I was showing you a picture. I wasn't showing you the post because the post has since been deleted. But there's been no apologies. So, okay, so you know what? Here's the question I have for you guys.
If you're gonna do it, own it. Own it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with you 1,000%.
Don't take it down a little bit.
Oh no. Repost it like 2 days after. Like you just repost your own post and just say, did you guys ever see my post? And you tag them all in it. But
yeah.
So here's the question I have for you guys. Instead of asking if they should be suing them, because I think I know the answer to that, should the PPC apologize? That's the question. Should the PPC apologize for that comment? Do you guys see anything wrong with that comment? Because me, man, I think it's fucking hilarious. If they did not make such a big deal of it, it would have just died off. It would have died off, and that would have been the end of it. But of course not. Classic. They had to make a big deal out of this. But I laughed, man. When I saw that, I was laughing my ass off. Agree with it or not, it was well placed.
Yeah, I don't think the PPC should apologize. That's a bitch move. you know, it was kind of it was a douchebaggy thing to do. They were kind of being dicks, but I mean, that's politics. That's, you know what I mean. The conservative influencers, they definitely handle that so poorly. Just laugh it off, or be like, you know, check out these motherfuckers or something. You know, go get in on the joke or something, or just ignore it. But yeah, to sue them. Zalaya's got his fucking gold chain there. He's in full ghetto mode. Like that's
but it's not the first time. I saw a video the other day where I didn't know the person that was recording it. I didn't know the guy at all, but he was calling out Mario Zelaya directly because Mario Zelaya has been talking against, I believe it's Sobeys. And he was talking about them and their prices and blah, 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 blah. And the guy kind of went back in the history of Mario Zelaya. And Mario Zelaya comes from a marketing background. He used to help businesses and corporation get their message out there. That's why he's grown so much, so fast, while being so fucking boring, because he knows how to do it. And I guarantee you there's a lot but there's a lot of money behind his content creation, as in he promotes the hell out of it, because there's no way, as boring as he is, that he should have the audience that he has right now. But the point is that the guy in the video was calling him out, saying, hey bro, you're complaining about them, yet you made a fucking fortune doing their marketing. So can you stop being such a hypocrite? Mario Zelaya responded to the video, and you know what he said? You know what? How about I just sue you, and then we can talk about it in court. So it's not the first time, and I'm paraphrasing. I was looking for the post earlier, but I didn't find it. But Mario Zelaya is not the first time he wants to sue people. And I think, you know, bro, suing people is just a bitch move, in my opinion. It's such a bitch move. You got a problem with me? We're men. Let's step outside. That's how men handle shit. Yeah. Remember the French? They look gay as shit. But if they back slapped you, if they backhanded you with a white glove, you guys had to duel. You guys were shooting somebody, got to die. But that's my point, right? Even the gayest of the gay, the French, were fucking badasses and did not take that type of shit. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, because I think it's such a bitch move. When people, I can understand if the defamation is costing you your livelihood, it's ruining you. Like, I understand. In that case, I really understand. But in this, it's bullshit, bro. If you never talked about it, if you never addressed it, that would have been the end of it. Nobody would have known. But the fact, like you said, the Streisand effect, but I just think it's a bitch move. Oh, I'm going to sue you.
Yeah, ideally you just ignore it, because I don't think anyone would have noticed it. They definitely, you know, the PPC definitely wanted to provoke a reaction, and
obviously,
gave it to them, for sure.
The PPC won that one. They definitely won that battle, no questions about it.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess if they took it down, they maybe call it a tie, but they definitely didn't lose it.
So we have like 9 minutes before Ian Runkle joins us. So let's take some of the comments here. Trevor Benson is saying they're spoiled children. Prairie, I can't stand that guy. Trevor saying you were right the first time, Nico. I don't know what I said. I say a lot of shit, so I don't know. What is it? Alba Witch. Alba Witch Wiggler. God damn. That is the name. Alba Witch Wiggler.
Alba Twitch Wiggler.
Oh,
6905.
Paid political stakeholder gang. Well, you're gonna fit right in, at least with me. All Easterners in that picture, outside of Mark Nixon. Mark Nixon is from BC. I believe he's from Vancouver, but he's from somewhere in BC. So yeah, what do you guys think? Should they apologize? Because at the end of the day, that's the question, right? Should they apologize?
Where does it stand? Where does it stand right now? Where does this beef stand? Is it like? Is it still ongoing? Because I'm
As far
not
as I
dialed
know,
into sort of right wing sort of personalities
oh, they're not even.
clashing.
They're not right wing. You should be right in there. They're fucking liberals. That's just liberal bullshit. Wanting to. Oh, you hurt my feeling. I'm gonna sue you. Ah, that's such a bitch move. No matter what, it's a bitch move. No matter how you see it,
Oh
it
yeah.
is so unmasculine. This to me is like as gay as you can be. I'm gonna sue you. Like this is the equivalent of my father's stronger than yours, or I'm gonna tell my father. Like this is the same type of crap. Like it's so unmasculine, and that's another problem that I have with the conservative, the air quote conservatives in Canada. Have you noticed all of them are kind of soft looking? Like none of them are very masculine. That's another thing that kind of bothers me. Conservative men are supposed to be more masculine. They're supposed to be more masculine. Either way, I just find it absolutely hilarious that I'm gonna sue you. That's the defense.
Yeah, that's some weak sauce there. You know, I don't know. I think they could have definitely dealt with that a lot better. The PPC definitely was stirring up a hornet's nest. So they knew what they were doing. And you know, it was definitely intended to cause a reaction.
It was well played. If you ask me, it was well played because he has no case. That defamation is not going to go anywhere because they could say whatever. Oh, we were talking about their content reaches kids and that's all. Thanks for showing us those people what they look like in real life. Like that, the defense is so easy. There's no case for defamation there. But, you know, Sylvie's right. And that I agree. And I think you agree with this too. Sylvie's saying, I'm not happy that the PPC took the post down though. I agree.
Yeah.
They should have lived up to it. If you're gonna throw the gauntlet, if you're gonna put the gloves on, take it. You gotta handle it. Look, you gotta take the heat.
If we're trying to like be the adult in the room, then yeah, they probably shouldn't have made the post in the first place. But once you make the post, you gotta go with it, man. You gotta ride or die with that post. You can't fucking delete it like a little bitch.
I would have reposted it, like I said. I would have reposted it. I would have reposted their post.
Remember this?
Like just
yesterday? Remember when we posted this yesterday?
Yeah, I agree. It's just a bitch move. It's very unmasculine to post it, then delete it, and tell people you're gonna sue them. Both sides on that one. I like the post personally because they had the effect that they were looking for. Do I agree with it or not is irrelevant. I just think it was hilarious. When I saw that, I reacted. I don't react to posts very often, but I saw it. I'm like, oof. You know they're gonna, because the PPC still has about 200,000 followers on X, right?
It's fun.
It is. Oh yeah, it is pretty funny.
And for someone like me, who again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't particularly care who wins this battle. It's just fun watching these guys all freak the fuck out.
I agree, man. Ian, thumbs up if you can hear us. You're ready to go. Guys, this is a treat, especially for me as a gun owner. This is somebody that I've been following for a long time. It's somebody I've been trying to get on this show for quite a while, but he is not an easy man to get a hold of. But today, we are joined by lawyer, legal commentator, and gun enthusiast, Ian Runkle, to speak about the liberal gun grab. Ian, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, sorry about the trouble on that, because right now I'm like 1,000 emails deep. Just about everybody is trying to reach out and be like, so I need help with this gun ban. It's like, okay, you and like every other Canadian. So I'm trying to get back to people, and it's like, sorry.
But
chaos.
I'm just happy you made the time. I'm happy that you're there. Yep. And all I needed to do is to speak to the VPs at the NFA, to speak at with the VPs at the CCFR, and then you paid attention. So that's all I needed to do, is to talk to the two biggest lobby group in Canada for you to pay attention.
That
But it's
isn't
okay.
actually what got my attention. It was just finally I looked in my because every so often like Twitter separates things out into like, you know, people you know versus, and so right now the people, like the message requests is huge, but I looked at it and I was like, okay, what's this? And I was like, oh, let's answer this, because yeah, it's just insane right now. I can't keep up. It's there's just so many people who are freaking out, and quite properly. People are going, what should I do with this? You know, how can I navigate this? Do I have any options? And it doesn't help that the government is not being honest about what, you know, what this involves, what and so there's a whole lot of people who are just directly confused. And sometimes I'm fighting, like somebody sends me a thing and I, you know, respond and they're like, well, here's a politician saying this other thing. I'm like, yeah, that's not true though. You have to recognize that that's not actually what the law says. That's not what they're doing. So, I mean, the big one is people going, oh, well, is this voluntary? It's like, well, kind of. It's a little verbal sleight of hand, because the voluntary part is, do you want to get paid? But the rest of it is not voluntary. Like the you have to give up your guns part is not voluntary. That is enforced with like tactical teams and shoot your dog and jail and all of those things that you don't want. So, you know, it's like if somebody crashes into your car and then says, hey, do you want $500 for this or not? That doesn't unfix your car, or like that doesn't uncrash your car if you say I'm not taking the money. It's so, but I get a lot of gun owners who have even been confused by that, because they say, well, look, here's these politicians saying it's voluntary. And it's like, it is not voluntary. It is not at all voluntary. It is so it's just such such a mess, such a headache, and quite frankly, I can't imagine a worse way of doing this or a worse time to do it. But here we are.
It's definitely confusing for people, because we've had, again, the two biggest gun lobby groups on the show, and they get the ears and the voice of the people. They get to speak to them every single day. And you know, as somebody that does journalism, that does a lot of research, I'm a one-man team. Everything that I talk about is because I researched it myself, and I'm a gun owner as well. So I looked around, and I'm no legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. That's why I'm very happy that you're here, because there's a question that's been on my mind ever since this started, and everything that I can find seems to indicate that I'm actually correct. But you being here, you can confirm this. But basically, as it stands right now, as a legal gun owner, if you do not give up or disable what they now consider a prohibited firearm, let's say your AR-15, for example, by October 31st, 2026, we become paper criminals, and we could face up to 14 years in prison for possession, knowing possession is unauthorized. Is that accurate?
Yep. I mean, effectively, it's basically, you know, if you read like Cinderella as a kid, and at midnight, all of the coach turns into a pumpkin again and all of those things. You should basically look at it as like your AR-15 at midnight on that day basically turns into a kilo of heroin. That's kind of the legalities of it. So, right now it is a prohibited item. It is banned. It has serious criminal penalties. And the only thing stopping the government from going after you is the amnesty order, which also means that if you step outside the amnesty order, like if you decided right now today to go to the range with your AR and just, shoot a few rounds, you could face that same penalty. So it's kind of crazy, because there's going to be people who don't realize especially with the government's messaging about like assault style weapons, but they keep expanding this list. So there's a lot of people. I have talked to gun owners who said, well, this doesn't affect me because I don't have an AR. And I go, well, what do you have? And there've been a fair number of people who start, well, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the other. And I'm like, and that's banned. And they go, what? So there's going to be a ton of people who don't apply by the deadline for the, to get any sort of compensation. And quite frankly, a lot of the people who apply for compensation are going to get ripped off. The government has made that very clear. But, and they won't realize it even when the deadline expires. And so what might happen is some years later, they're out hunting with a rifle that they've been using for 30 years for, hunting. And they run into a fish and wildlife officer. And the officer's like, hey, can I, check your tags? Can I, all of this? If you've run into a fish and wildlife officer, it's like, what are you hunting for? Okay, yep, that's in season. You've got tags, all good. But then they might go, wait a minute, that gun is illegal. And now you're getting arrested. And, I expect that for decades, I'll be getting calls going, so I didn't know this was banned. And it's a real problem because most of these guns were previously non-restricted, the lowest classification for firearms. And they were that way because a lot of the guns here that are targeted are firearms that were basically low impact in Canadian society. Most of the firearms on this list have never been used in a homicide in Canada. And if you narrow it down to legally owned versions, then the list of never used in a homicide gets almost to the entire list, basically. So these are not the guns that are used in, when you see a murder, happening on the news, it wasn't a gun off this list, almost certainly. What the Canadian gun experience basically falls into two categories for like criminal use of guns. And the first is like simple shotguns and hunting rifles that have been sawed down. And the other category is short-barreled handguns. And a ton of the guns that are seized off of Canadian streets, if you go downtown Toronto and you catch a drug dealer with a gun, tucked down the waistband, it is virtually certain that that gun is going to be a short-barreled handgun. And not just that, but one manufactured after short-barreled handguns were banned in Canada. So a gun that has never been legal in Canada, has never and could not possibly have lawfully entered Canada. These are the mainstay. So all of this, people are sort of looking at it going, well, I'm not the problem, but the government thinks they are. So, and they just keep expanding the list. It's, people who are doing sport shooting like myself, I used to do 3-gun with an AR. And then they banned that. And the public messaging was, well, you don't need an AR to do this. You can buy another gun. Go buy another gun. And we'll compensate you at some point down the road, but go buy another gun if you want to keep shooting in the meantime. So I did. And they banned it. And then they said, well, we're done banning. We're done. Go buy another one, And so I did. And they banned that too. And so every time we, like if you are a hunter or a sports shooter or anything, collectors are really getting hit by this. They, they're just like, well, okay, you went and bought another one, but we're going to ban that too. It's really quite, yeah. And then they're concerned that like gun owners now, I saw some notes that the government is concerned that gun owners have sort of lost respect for the police. They went from one of the most pro-police, sort of groups within society to, gun owners who are just saying like, if I see a crime across the street and the cops want to talk to me, nah, I don't care. I'm not helping you out for any reason. It's people have lost confidence in the government to treat them fairly, especially with the so for the people who don't understand how the compensation is going to work, you have to sign up by, I think it's the end of March. I'm not paying too much attention because I'm not taking the money. But
March 30th or March 31st. Yes.
And then they have your list of what things you have and what things you're going to turn in and so forth. At that point, you are basically committed, because if you don't turn them in, then they know you have them and they will come after you. And most of these guns, they don't know who's got them because they're all non-restricted, with the exception of like the AR-15. So at that point, they have said, we've got a budget to seize a little over 100,000 guns. But the estimates are that there are 2 million affected firearms. And they've said, well, when we run out of money, we're going to pay people out on a first come, first served basis. And everyone else is going to lose their guns for nothing. We're not going to pay you a dime once we run out of the money. So there's going to be a lot of gun owners at the end of this.
This is obviously done intentionally, right? To ensure that not everyone is going to be able to get paid, to create a sense of panic, or at least
they want to create urgency so that like you got to sign up now, because, and what they're really hoping is that there'd be this huge number that they can release and be like, look, we've got 100,000 signups right away, but instead they got 20,000 signups, and that's 20,000 firearms, and it's not clear what all that includes. But so then they've, and then
before you continue, you continue though, because one of the things when I saw that buyback being brought together, and now they're talking about not having enough money for the 2 million guns, even though they're not even going to compensate you properly, even if you do get money for your gun. But it sounds to me just like a backdoor registry. They're fishing you with, oh, here's money, just tell us what you have, because technically they don't know.
That's exactly what it is. And in fact, at one point when Carney was speaking on the House of Commons floor, he did a Freudian slip. He used the word registry, and then he's like, compensation program. And it's pretty clear that in their briefing somebody used the word registry, and that caught on to him, because I don't think he was even in the country when the whole long gun registry, kerfuffle was going on. But that's another thing that they're trying to do here. If you remember, one of the criticisms of the long gun registry is that they said it's only going to cost like, 20 million or whatever. And then the cost was like rolling up on like billions of dollars. And so they very much want to avoid any sort of budget overruns here. So the way they've done that is they've said, we're going to here's our budget. And every dollar that they spend on administration comes out of the pool and basically deducts from the compensation pool. So they're saying we're not going to go over the budget because we're just going to stop paying people. And, can you imagine if you tried to run your finances like this? Like you tell your bank, hey, I will pay the mortgage out of whatever's money is left on my paycheck. So, I mean, it really sucks for you that I went to the bar tonight because I spent $60, pounding down cocktails, and that's coming out of the mortgage payment, and nothing you could do about it. I mean, the bank has remedies. The bank would be like, we're taking your house. But the gun owners affected have no remedies. The gun owners affected are just like, the government can just say, sorry, we're not paying you, and there's nothing they can do. It's bizarre.
From a legal perspective, as somebody that does criminal law, because that's what you specialize in, why
not allowed to say specialization with the Law Society, but it is an area of interest, I guess is the way to put it.
Okay,
but
one of the things that you do is criminal law.
Yeah.
Why, in your lawyer's opinion, in your legal opinion, if you look at the statistics, and you used Toronto earlier, across Canada, you're looking about 90% of the firearms that are used in crimes come from the US. They do not come from Canada. Some places a bit higher, some places a bit lower, but it's about 90% across Canada. So why are they going after gun owners? I know why they're going at it. I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I know the reason. But for you as a lawyer, why are they going after legal gun owners, considering that we are the safest people in Canada. My name's ran and your name is ran through 2 federal databases every single day to make sure I didn't commit a crime that could make me lose my firearms. I have less right than a convicted pedophile. Like the RCMP can legally, what is it, 24 to 48 hours? They can show up to my place and say, oh, we need to look at your guns. So why, explain to me why they're going after us instead of really trying to go after criminals.
I would love to say that there's a good like criminal justice reason. The thing is that these are not guns that are used in crimes. I have on a couple of occasions seen something like an AR or something at a drug dealer's house. I have not seen one used in like a crime. And the thing is that you get some drug dealers kind of are like weapons hoarders. So you get some of them that have like all sorts of things from like morning stars and nunchucks to whatever else. Sometimes, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're using. What criminals, and when I'm talking about criminals, I don't mean like somebody who's accidentally committed a crime or whatever else. I mean people whose occupation is crime. Like what they do for money, the really dedicated criminals who are this sort of danger in society. And they want concealable. They want portable. Because if you're sitting there out at a street corner selling drugs, a gun that is, you're sitting there with this big long gun, it takes no time for the police to roll up on that, right?
Yeah.
They want something that they can tuck into a jacket, that they can tuck into their pants. And so that's why you see the short-barreled handguns, not even like the big long, the long-barreled guns that, people are using in competitions and like long-barreled handguns. And you see like sawed-off shotguns, sawed-off rifles that are like cut down to be real small. And the guns they've targeted are ones that often don't make a whole lot of sense. Like nobody saws off an AR. Like you just don't. They're not the sort of gun that you do that with. People are sawing off like 12 gauges. So none of this makes any sense in terms of like what you see from criminals. It's just not the ordinary course of things. So, it's when you find people who've been killed in, some sort of homicide, they are typically, it's typically 9mm, not 223.
Yeah.
And, and 22, a lot more 22 and 12 gauge than 223. So all of this, it just doesn't make any sense from that perspective. But I mean, if we're getting into the theorizing and so forth, gun owners are a group that typically does not vote liberal. So they can punish that group and not take any blowback from their voters. But also there's a lot of people who are left-leaning who really like seeing people who are perceived to be a right-leaning group punished. And there's a lot of stereotyping. You'll see the number of times I've heard left-wing people say things like, why do you need a gun? Doesn't your dick work? Which is itself incredibly sexist, but it conveys a very hostile attitude towards gun owners. And the funny thing about that is that the gun owners are, they're people who do sport shooting, they're people who go hunting, and a ton of them are Indigenous Canadians. This is going to weigh on Indigenous Canadians in a big way. So you get people who are like, we need to deal with the overrepresentation of Indigenous Canadians in prisons by jailing a bunch of them for their hunting rifles that they've like gotten from their grandfathers. And so I'm like going, this makes no sense to me. But that animosity, it plays well to people in, Quebec, people in, Toronto. And this isn't even a conspiracy theory because we actually got this directly from Gary Ananda Sangari, who was caught on tape going, we're doing this because, Quebec. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. And he said, like, I can't defend this on safety. I can't, make this make sense, but we have to do it for Quebec. They know it's not a public safety thing.
Before I throw it to Rob, because I know he has something to say, I just wanted to kind of input on something you said earlier. And I come from a criminal background. I'll be the first one to admit I've sold drugs. I've done a lot of bad stuff when I was younger. And they're not hoarders. Drug dealers are not hoarders. They're like pawn shops. You accept any type of payment for what you're selling. So often you end up with some really weird shit just because that's all the fiend had to offer when they needed their fix. Just saying.
Some of the, especially the ones on meth, there's a meth hoarding sort of correlation. And so you get them, like some of them will collect weird stuff. Some of them it's payments and so forth, but some of them it's just, they have weird collections of things. And it's not always like weapons. Sometimes they have weird collections of like other stuff, but it's a whole thing. The, if you're talking to like the opiate dealers and so forth, they don't tend to have that same thing. They'll move.
It's only the meth guys.
Yeah.
Rob, I know you have a question, so go ahead.
I've got a couple. Yeah, I've actually got two, Ian. I'll just ask them first and then throw them to you. The first is about you had mentioned that a lot of these gun owners are now sort of really becoming maybe not anti-cop, but not as supportive of the police as they have been. Now, you know, I'm only mildly versed in this issue, but just from the outside, it did seem like a lot of the police forces were not cooperating with this. And I was wondering what your sort of, if that's how the average gun owner, do they see that in that way, or do they actually still blame the police forces? So that's the first question. And the second is, you know, you had said you can't think of a good reason why they're doing this gun grab. But can you give us like the real reason? And actually, I thought of this before. You actually did just answer it a few minutes ago with the basically because Quebec said so, right? It's all politics.
Yeah, although the timing is also interesting of these announcements because they keep announcing more gun bans every time there's a scandal with the Liberal government. And so something happens that is embarrassing and they're starting to get heat, and then we're banning a whole bunch of guns. And suddenly the news isn't talking about the embarrassing thing, they're talking about the gun ban. And initially we saw with the Portapique shooting, the ban was dropped like the next day, which means that list was already compiled. Like they had that ready to go. That was not something that, because it takes them a while to draft anything. That was just like immediate.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it didn't look like it was something that was like hastily thrown together or anything. That was ready to go. And there were a lot of issues with regards to that shooting in terms of the police behavior. Why did they not go after this guy, notwithstanding the fact that they had multiple reports of him having illegal guns? What about the police shooting at a fire hall? These sorts of things. And all of those questions just evaporated in a puff of smoke because suddenly people are talking about the gun ban. So what could have been a major, like, you know, why did the police screw up this bad turned into, well, we've just banned a whole bunch of these things. But, and sorry, your other question, I've forgotten it now.
Well, I'll reintroduce it for you by naming the people, if you don't mind, Rob, because I wanted to ask him that. No, so Alberta, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, Yukon, Manitoba, New Brunswick, the Northwest Territories are all saying that they're not going to enforce it. Literally, you have Quebec and BC, and Quebec will probably change because we do have an election this year, and the party, the Parti Québécois, that's winning in the polls is pro-gun, and they're separatists on top of that. So maybe that Quebec's not even going to be in the equation, but there's probably at least 20 to 30 different police forces throughout Canada that said, we're not doing it.
And there's two real factors on that. The first is this program is going to be expensive, and it's going to be an operational nightmare. And you've got all these police forces going, okay, it's like if you're at work and somebody goes and says, who wants to do a whole bunch of extra work for no extra money and no extra credit? And you're like, ooh,
with
me,
extra risk
right?
too, right? Because this is a
But,
high risk thing, going door to door to take guns.
oh, I mean, if they're going door to door to take guns, that's insane. I don't think they're going to have any problems in most areas, but I mean, there's places
gonna
where
be
that
few.
might be a risky move.
Oh yeah.
And I know that there are a couple of reserves that have basically told the police, if you come here to collect guns, you will find them all lined up against you with a big go home sign. Because, I mean, we have had, if you look at Oka, there was indigenous resistance. And the only reason that's not a golf course right now is because they lined up with firearms and said, nah, we're not doing that. I can't see them wanting to do it on that basis, but even just things like, the collection is going to be a hassle. They got to protect this because, okay, you've collected a warehouse full of guns. Now, how do you keep anybody from stealing it? Because one of the sources of, firearms on the street is stolen from cops. It's basically, do you want to take all this on for no extra budget, no extra whatever? And they're like, we're not interested. But the other factor is that a ton of the people who own ARs are police.
Exactly.
So back when ARs were legal at the range, if you saw somebody at the range rocking an AR and, putting holes in paper, there was about a 50-50 shot that was a police officer.
Yep. 100%.
And, you'd go up and you'd talk to them and it's like, oh yeah, I'm with EPS, I'm with whatever. And the reason why is because you get a lot of them who are either on a tactical team or want to someday be on a tactical team, or now that a lot of forces are rolling out ARs just as general things, they're like, I want to practice. And for a lot of forces, their practice time is like, okay, you get 100 rounds a year. Okay, that sounds like a lot if you've never gone shooting, but I will go through more than 100 rounds on a range trip. And,
Jesus.
So, if you want to be proficient, and especially if you want to be proficient, under high stress, difficult scenarios, because it's one thing, when I got into doing 3-gun, one of the things I learned is that it's a very different thing between like, okay, I'm lining up on a target, I'm taking a nice shot, all of that, to there's the timer, beep, and now you got to do it under time pressure and, be accurate while moving, be accurate under speed.
Yep.
Even just a really simple thing, if you, go out to the range with your rifle, take some shots, and then run for like 15 minutes and then come back and try to take those same shots. And you're going to be all over the map. And that's without even doing things like, if you were doing push-ups, you'd be even worse. I did like brutality matches in the States, and one of the stages had you carrying a police riot shield and then shooting one-handed. And my arms were sufficiently tired that the gun wasn't cycling properly because I was limp wristing the gun because my arm was exhausted. These are the kinds of things you never think about. You never actually consider until you're doing this, which is why a lot of police were really keen on these things, because it allows them to train and practice. And, when you see situations here in Edmonton, I think it was last year, we had a case where the police were shooting at somebody. Apparently they had reason to, but they shot into an apartment building and killed the occupant. Some guy was just sitting there frying some eggs and a bullet came through his window. I am much happier if that police officer has good aim and those rounds are landing in their target versus bad aim. There was a similar case in Edmonton where they there was a child that was killed because they were firing at a guy in a vehicle. And again, ultimately they were cleared on that. It was determined that they had good reason to fire at the driver, but you miss the driver and that bullet goes somewhere. So all of these police officers who bought ARs to practice with them still have the ARs. And so I think it's a very difficult question for these police departments going, are we going to raid those cops? Like, are we going to? It'd be a very awkward conversation with the going door to door to the other, to other officers, and being like, "Yeah, you have to give up your guns." It's gonna be this is gonna be a disaster, and I don't know
got
how
a
to fix
question
it.
well, I don't think you can. I think this is a good thing that a lot of those police officers do like ARs just the way we do. I'm very happy about the news that we're hearing that they're not going to enforce it. And clearly there's a moral aspect behind it, but they can use the fact, hide behind, oh, we don't have we don't have the money to do this. So
Yeah.
we can't possibly do that. But at the end of the day, how many of them have really a big moral problem saying we don't want to do that, to target the people that are not the problem? But one of the question that we got a question for the audience, and I really like that question. Sylvie's asking, do you know what happens to those confiscated firearm? Because that is something that's not very clear in their buyback program either.
So the initial round was taken from businesses, and those businesses, they sent their guns to a property that is leased by CZ, Colt Canada. CZ owns Colt Canada. So that's where those ones went. But I've heard from reliable sources that CZ is backed out, or Colt Canada is backed out. They're not doing it anymore. Within Quebec police, the Sûreté de Quebec is destroying the Quebec guns. It's not clear if they're destroying all the guns or just the Quebec guns. So it's unclear what's going to happen with all of these. But if you're in Quebec, you know that they're going to, the Quebec police. But for somebody, say, in British Columbia, it's not clear where they're going. And I mean, it may end up being a giant mess, because if they end up doing things like they've been talking about mobile collection units, well, all right, if they're mobile collection and destruction units, like if they just have a guy with a chop saw in the back, then you can end up with real problems of accounting, because what will likely happen is you'll get somebody who turns in their AR-15 and the government says, we never got your AR. And they'll say, well, I gave you my AR. And the government will say, we don't have it. We don't believe you. We are going to send a tactical team to raid your house. And people may end up getting charged for, basically paperwork, errors. Somebody types a serial number in wrong. It's the number of places this is likely to go wrong is huge. So
yeah, and bureaucrats always do something wrong. Can't trust them to do anything right. Now, before we let you go, because we're 8:00, I wanted to ask you one more, because as a lawyer, obviously you get a lot of messages. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of gun owners that are approaching you to try to understand what their options are. What can you do legally as a lawyer? What do you recommend legally to the people that are getting in touch with you that do not want to give their guns away, that do not want to turn them into paperweight either? They don't want to destroy their firearms. What do you tell them to do right now as we speak?
I mean, right now you can hold off because there's, it's until October. But the thing is there aren't a lot of good options. Some of these guns might be able to be sold overseas, elsewhere, but the biggest market is the United States, and the United States has very strict rules on imports. So a lot of these guns, for instance, cannot be sent to the US. There's other countries where some guns might be able to be sent and other guns might not. So, but the export thing is complicated. It's a bit of a nightmare. There are a few film armors who might be able to buy some of the guns, but the CFO and the registrar are, in my view, illegally trying to prevent that from happening, because they're trying to ensure that nobody can, and I have a film armorer's license. They've told me, oh, you can't buy any of these guns. And I'm like, oh, we might have a court fight about that, because I will be absolutely down to fight with you about that. of course, there's the government options. If you don't want to break the law, and of course, I can't advise anybody to break the law, but if you don't want to break the law, but you also want to annoy the government, one of the things you can do is you are allowed to destroy a gun on your own. When you destroy a prohibited or restricted firearm, and all of these affected guns are now prohibited guns, you are required to report the destruction, but you're not required to prove it. You're not required to provide them with the parts. You're not required to anything. And so this is going to annoy the hell out of them if it happens in any significant numbers, because you might get gun owners going, yes, here's my AR, and here's the serial number, and I destroyed it. And they'll say, prove it. And you say, no, I don't have to. At which point they have a problem because, now the one thing you should definitely not do is don't report it destroyed if it's not destroyed, because the false report is itself a crime. And if they ever find that gun anywhere and you reported it destroyed, you're going to be in a world of shit. But, if you actually destroy it, you don't have to prove that to them, and you don't have to give them the parts. You don't have to anything. At which point they're going to be like, how do we know these things got destroyed? And let's imagine there's like 1,000 ARs that are destroyed and then reported, but no proof. They're going to be going, ew. And it's a way to annoy them. And I mean, I'm a big proponent of annoying bad governments when they're doing, because there's all sorts of ways to protest something legally that will annoy them. And so some of those things that I'm planning to do, I can't really say here because it'll cause trouble. But I mean, I've got this thing. This is a spoiler because there will be a video about this thing at some point. I've got big plans for that thing. So that I don't want to say.
Obviously, he just said he won't tell you.
No.
I will. There's going to be a video, and it's going to be me doing a bit of trolling. But yeah, so the problem is for most people, the options are not good, in terms of following the law. And it's an unfortunate circumstance. I've had people call me up with regards to the handgun transfer ban. And they're like, look, this gun has been in our family for, for generations. One of my relatives brought this back from World War II, like a World War II captured Luger. This was because, this relative who was injured in battle and, was covered in medals and so forth. He brought this back. And how do I give this to my kid? And the answer before used to be easy. Like, here's how you do that. No problem. We'll get that done for you, in a weekend. No issues. Now, the answer is you can't. And like, I've had people crying on the phone when they realized that they couldn't get their family heirloom. Like, grown men just crying because their dad just passed and the gun that they thought they were going to get that has this huge family significance has to get destroyed. And, I hate those calls, but, you take those calls and you do what you can, which is usually to say, I'm sorry, there's not a good option. And I mean, this is the problem, is that for the people who are not affected by this, they say, what's the big deal? Right? I see people on Reddit and so forth all the time saying, oh, just buy another gun. It's no big deal. Well, okay, but that's not a good answer for a lot of the people who are affected by this. And they don't realize just how much animosity and how much division this is creating. And I said earlier, this is the worst possible time to be doing this. Right now, we've got the whole 51st state thing and so forth. The government should be going, we need to have people unified. And instead, they're pushing this incredibly divisive policy that pushes urban against rural, that pushes, all sorts of people away, and especially annoys and offends Indigenous groups, the military, and police. And I'm going, now is the time you want to pick a fight with the military and the cops? Are you kidding me? Whose side are you on? Even more so when you have the the Canadian Armed Forces is going, well, our defense strategy is armed civilian resistance. And the government is like, okay, we're going to disarm the public. And I go, what? Why are you taking steps that actively undermine the Canadian Armed Forces planned strategy? And I know that if it was the Conservatives taking steps to undermine the military's plan, you would have people like shouting treason from the rooftops. But instead they're like, oh yeah, we're all for it. And it's because politics is this huge team sport. And it's hard not to buy into the team sport thing when one team is like actively trying to screw with my life and the things that I enjoy and all of those things. But I mean, it's just so frustrating and so mind-boggling at all of this. Because I mean, if I was in power right now and the Canadian Armed Forces was like, we need armed civilian resistance, I'd be like, we encourage all Canadians who are eligible for a firearms license to get one. And we encourage you to buy buy an AR. We're taking those off the banned list. We're taking everything off the banned list. And also, we are going to ask Canadian Armed Forces trainers to spend one day a week at their local range, just providing training for anyone who wants to show up and learn. That's where I'd be going. Just come on out, learn to do this. We hope nobody ever needs to use it, but learn how. And instead, they're like, we want to disarm the public as much as possible, and it's not public safety. The things that they do in the name of votes, I just go, okay. So this policy could end up being viewed in hindsight as incredibly divisive and disastrous. So,
especially considering that gun owners are extremely political.
Yeah, well, that's part of why they want to target gun owners. It's, the Liberal Party has always been very forward thinking. They think 10, 20 years out. And they have identified gun owners as a group that doesn't like them. And so if they can eliminate gun owners, and before these bans, gun ownership was growing, especially with things like 3-gun. And especially the fastest growing group of gun owners was women.
Yep.
And if you're looking at what, when I have brought women out to the range, just okay, they're like, I want to learn to shoot. I bring a variety of guns, and the one they always gravitated to is I really enjoy shooting this.
AR.
The AR-15.
But it makes sense when you think about it because it's so adaptable. I'm 6'1", 230. My wife is 5'4", 120 pounds. We can use the exact same gun, and it will be operated in a very similar fashion for her and I. That's one of the beauties of the AR-15.
It's a small cartridge, so, you've got people who might be smaller framed and they're not getting beat up by recoil. They can focus on shooting accurately without having to worry about all of these other things. So, the number of women who were buying ARs just up to the ban was a lot. And it was, that was the fastest growing segment of the shooting sports was women. And it's also one of the few sports where women compete equally against the guys. If you go and run a 3-gun match, it's not men's 3-gun and women's 3-gun, at least, where I am, it's just 3-gun. And a lot of women outshoot the guys. So, yeah, all of this I feel is, there is some political aspect of if we can eliminate this voting block, that that'll help us out in future. And I feel like that's what they're trying to do.
I think there's a bigger agenda at hand, but you're still a lawyer. And I understand that you need to be careful about what you say. So I'm not going to go there, but I really appreciate your time, Ian. Thank you for accepting my invitation of coming on the show. Hopefully we
I'm
get you
sorry
again, because
sorry it took a while.
I'm very I won't stop
No, that was
asking.
great.
Like I kept on asking and asking and asking, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. So now I have your email address, so I know where to send the email. But I definitely like to have you back on as the story develops, because this is not any way close to being finished. So thank you for your time. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the work that you do educating gun owners and educating the people that don't know about guns in Canada. So thank you very much for what you do, Ian.
Thank you. And I really like this format where you've got sort of a left-leaning and a right-leaning person having a dialogue, because I think that's really important. You've got so many spaces online that are just like all left or all right, and it just ends up being people listening to themselves. And we need more of like reaching across things. So
I appreciate that you could recognize who the liberal was. Thank you for knowing who the liberal was. Yeah. But thanks a lot for your time, Ian.
That's basically what we were. Yeah, that's basically what we designed the show to do. So yeah, we appreciate the kind words, and thank you for the conversation. That was a great chat. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much, and cheers.
Thank you, Ian.
So there we have it, man.
Great chat.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Very down to earth. Very down to earth.
Yes. Yeah. Super down to earth. You know, he knows his shit. And
but he doesn't sound like a lawyer. Did you notice? Like he doesn't. He just sounds like just another dude. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. He definitely like he knows his shit, and he's not preachy, and you know, he makes a strong case for that this gun grab really doesn't need to happen, and it's being done for political reasons. And
you don't need to go down the conspiracy theorist path, because I could have got there, but you didn't need to do it, and I appreciate that. He's a lawyer. He can address it in terms that make sense to people, because it's hard to argue with what he said. When you start looking at the statistics, we are not the problem. We're not the ones committing the crimes, and even the firearms that we own are not the one used in crimes either. Because like he said, nobody's walking around with an AR-15 in Canada. Now go down south, that's a very different story. How many times have I been to somebody's car and there's an AR in the car because it's totally legal? You're allowed to walk around with that. Most people don't, but you could if you wanted to. You could conceal carry an AR. Like, that's the weirdest fucking shit, but you could. Technically you could. So yeah, it was a great talk. I'm happy we got him in. And for the people out there that weren't there at the beginning of the show, tomorrow 7:30 Eastern, we are joined by Mia Hughes to talk about the motion, the conservative motion that did not pass, that still, it seems like the party is still encouraging the conversation between parents, psychologists, and kids when it comes to their trans feelings. So that's what because it went viral. Everybody's like, how can you consider yourself a conservative? So I was able to reach out to Mia Hughes. She's going to come on the show tomorrow to speak about what that actually means. And I know you're a fan of hers, so hopefully you do.
Should be a great chat.
Yep. I agree. So that was kind of half for you and a half for the subject that needs to be covered. So you're welcome.
No,
you're welcome.
Yes. Just taking your victory lap. Yeah. Easy.
You're welcome.
Strain your arm, patting yourself on the back.
They're too big, bro. I can't even touch my shoulders. What are you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis? All right, guys, we're gonna put a pin under there. Excellent show, excellent guest. Looks like the audience really liked that. If you guys are just tuning in and you want to support the show, please consider becoming a member through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee, which you will see in the QR code in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And of course, just keep coming back. That's another way to support the show. Throw the comments out there. The show is heavily based on audience engagement and participation. Agree with us, disagree with us. We want to hear it all, and we'll get to you. Other than that, folks, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Peace.